System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' Inner City Left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Today is Tuesday, July 21st. I'm Amin TMK alongside Amoja, Lil Tanky Sumler. Amoja, hello. Happy Tuesday. It's going up on a Tuesday. How are you doing today? How has your week been?
Man, just getting it, loving life. For once, we're not in this 100-degree weather, you know what I'm saying? So, hey, but we have been told, that we're doing so good with energy that the energy company has the right every now and again on really hot days when the load is really, really bad. Just dial it back. You don't really need that air conditioner. So in America, we have air conditioning and we have access to energy, but, is it better? Yeah, the Europeans, they don't even have air conditioning right now.
Or it depends on the floor you're living on or something ridiculous like that.
Right. If you're in the penthouse, I understand, expected to have certain degrees of luxury.
I'm going to have to figure this out because turning the air conditioning off at peak hours when it's the hottest isn't a great idea. But yeah, that's
as wild,
energy
man.
for
That's
you.
DC
That's
shit, man.
Living, I don't know. Comment
in the
below.
Capital of the empire.
Comment below if you experience some sort of energy surging. We know the AI data centers gobbling up this energy.
I wonder if they get their style back. Y'all using a lot. We're going to go ahead. People actually need air conditioning right now. So we're going to throttle back the data.
The AI data centers need air conditioning. It's hot in there doing all that computing. I heard New York just banned data centers. I don't know if that's true or not. I hadn't got to get the cracked heat on there and we'll see what happens. Okay, let's get started on what we normally talk about.
Let's get it.
Right. Past week, Ukrainian UAVs hit the largest order processing hub of wild berries, Russia's biggest e-commerce retailer in the Moscow region. If you don't know what wild berries is, it's sort of the Amazon equivalent, Russia's equivalent, sort of a large warehouse. And this is, if you're on YouTube watching with us, a massive explosion. Like, I mean, it really looks like this thing was hit. Huge plumes of smoke. I believe death toll is at 7. Many people injured. I mean, the entire building is completely blown up. If you've seen more videos of it, I honestly just don't know what YouTube is going to allow us to show. But again, Amoja, we see Ukraine not hitting a gas station or a weapons depot. They're not hitting energy infrastructure. They're not hitting military infrastructure. They are hitting civilians and civilian infrastructure, retail, if you will. Escalations now from Russia, obviously. Can you talk to us a little bit about Wild Berries, this facility, what happened, and sort of what is going on with Russia's retaliation?
So once again, when we talk about the Iranification of what's happening with the Russian Federation as to how they're dealing with these incidences now, they're demonstrating force in a way that they just have not done since the beginning of the conflict. Now, maybe it's just a convergence, right? But you have to remember that there's a connection in all of these things. The thing that we've continued to talk about on Inner City Left is in the real world, there are only so many of anything that can be made. There are only so many Lamborghinis that can be made, and they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Missiles are the same way. There is a finite amount. And though the United States can normally be counted on to sell them, I mean, that's kind of what, the economy is predicated on. There is times when the world is not the client, when the American government is the client. And if the American government is the client for the missiles, whatever you normally can buy, you're going to get what's left over. That's just the bottom line. So right now, the American government is the client for most of those missile corporations. And those missiles are going to the Gulf. Those missiles are going to Jordan. Those missiles are going to Israel because there's an active conflict going on right now. It's in these moments that they don't have that excess that the Americans used to just be able to sell off. And this is the consequences, right? So, yeah, the Ukrainians are able to get a drone all the way into Russia. They're able to get into Moscow, and they were able to injure, I think they killed 6 workers. 21 workers were seriously injured, attacking essentially a factory where people, like you said, like an Amazon factory. But that did not come without consequences. In response, the Russians fired 38 Iskander-M hypersonic missiles into the capital city of Kyiv. 6 Zircon hypersonic cruise missiles, which are even faster. The Zircon is just one of the fastest missiles alive. Normally, you have about 6 minutes between its launch and its hit, and it can go thousands of kilometers. So, if it's fired, you don't have a lot of time to get away. What it's aiming at, if it's on target, it's hit. That's just it. I mean, there were more than 40 missiles that were fired into the capital city of Kyiv and hit strategic places where they were doing drone manufacturing, where they were aggregating the drones that had been going into Russia, right? All of these things happen. And so it shows to, once again, these things that happen when they're great news stories, like, oh, they were able to attack Moscow. But the price they pay every time they pull one of these stunts, it's the only way to look at it. These stunts is the main hardcore degradation of their continued ability to enter into this conflict in a meaningful military way. And this has only been compromised further, right? First off, with the destruction of all of these drones and these drone factories, and the removal of, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, the removal of the defense minister in Ukraine, who had become a very popular man and had become an enemy of Sersky, who is essentially the commander of chief of the military in Ukraine, and also Zelensky. And so now there's a huge power struggle. And the defense minister, Fedorov, this guy was forced to resign. And it's creating conflict. But
well, I mean, we're going to get into that, and I want to discuss that. This is sort of some breaking news I just wanted to throw out there. Ukrainian drone hit a bus in Belgorod. I don't know if you heard about this. Belgorod region, killing 5 civilians. Ukrainian drone hit a bus in Russia's Belgorod Oblast on Monday, killing 5 civilians. 4 of them women, 1 a child. So when you go back and we just having this discussion of civilian targets, well, that's another one. And let's get into the point you were talking about, because I think that this is very important. Over the last couple of, I don't want to say last couple of, because let's not forget, this was a coup. This was how this happened. It was a coup. This is how Zelensky came to power. And because of that, protests have been going on pretty consistently for a long time, but they are enormous right now. This is from Military Summary. At this hour, large-scale protests are taking place in almost all regional cities of Ukraine against senseless and destructive personnel policies. That's what you were talking about, Tanky, and we can get into this a little bit further. Particularly large protests taking place in Kyiv, as reported from places where the internet is still available. For this reason, there are very few photos and video material, but we do have some right here for those who are on YouTube. You'll be able to see it. But again, just it's a pretty big protest. Lots of signs.
And these are cardboard signs. So, these are people, they wrote these themselves.
Yeah, they handed out by the little NGOs. Yeah, they didn't get off the bus with signs being handed out. And we also know that it's real because it's a massive protest. There's lots of people and again in multiple
cities.
They military summary here. They're mentioning sort of the personnel. You touched on it a little bit before. Can you kind of go into more details about why the people are upset and sort of how these personnel changes are affecting Ukraine right now?
So that gets into the human aspect of war, right? When you take it away from the numbers, there are people that are in charge of these conflicts, right? Right now, the person that is in charge of the greater military effort in Ukraine is a man named Syrskyi. He is not the first person that's had that role, but he's the person that's doing that role now. He is reported to be very close to the American and the British intelligence agencies, right? So his war has become kind of an energy war, a logistics war. It's under his guidance, right, that the drones, and also, to be fair, Fedorov, who is the defense minister, they both get a little bit of the credit as to their successes, as to these later strikes that they've been able to pull off that have hit Russian refineries, that have been damaging shipping in the Sea of Azov, in the Black Sea. Like, these have been real effects that have happened to the Russians, and they're embarrassing. They're costing the Russians billions of dollars, and that these are real things. Now, are they changing the battlefield? No, right? And so, that's become part of the conflict between Syrskyi, right, who what they need also, instead of just an intelligence guy, is a field commander. Now, who was the great field commander that they have? You guys may remember it was a guy named Zaluzhny. He was the guy that was responsible for the great push, that the surge that the Ukrainians had, that retook cities like Kharkiv, retook cities like Zaporizhia, right? But
he was a major hero.
He was a major
Wasn't
hero.
Was he in GQ as well?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was in GQ, and he's currently the ambassador to Britain from Ukraine, right? But again, he got too popular, so Zelensky got rid of him. Syrskyi came in and became the new guy. Well, the problem is Syrskyi doesn't have that real on the battlefield type experience, and so, when he went up against things like the Surovikin line, he got destroyed. He lost all of these advantages that Zaluzhny had provided. And for a long time, this has been a kind of a personal chess match between the Russian head commander, Gerasimov, and Surovikin. And this rumor about getting rid of Syrskyi is not a new one. It goes back at least 6 months. It goes back to when they were losing the city, the big city in the middle by Konstantinivka, right? And now that they've lost Konstantinivka as well, right? It's done, right? And somehow Syrskyi has been able to hold on to power again due to his connections with the Americans, the Brits, and also he's a hardcore Azov guy, right? In a way that Zelensky never will be. So, the rumor was when the protests began, because, let's be honest, Zelensky's terrified of maintaining his own position. He doesn't have any particular loyalty to Syrskyi, and he knows the war is also unwinnable, but he understands there's still a lot of money right now, and this is all about who's going to control the graft in Ukraine. That's what this power struggle is, And so when they both, Syrskyi and Zelensky, tried to make the move to get rid of Fedorov was so popular with the people. You compare that with the guy that Zelensky wanted to replace him with, which is the guy who's over the chief of police, the guy that's been literally grabbing people off the streets and impressing them into the army, right? And so the people are revolting because they understand the new guy, what he's trying to do is get bodies out there to the battlefield. Because someone has to win on the battlefield for this to change. They understand.
He's doing really good at that.
Right.
He's doing real well at that part.
Grabbing the bodies, right? But it's different training them up. Yeah, let's get it, man. Oh, my. Of course, there's videos.
These are a couple of these videos. This one's a little bit long, but I want to, So this is another one of those moms out here fighting for the life of her son. And you can see, again, it's a little bit dim. Several men. See, there's a guy right here being dragged home.
Пидоры вонючие! Вы больны!
They really just dragging him, man.
Идите сами воевать, пидорасы, блядь, галимые! Вы не видите, сука! Хвосты, капец!
Yeah, Moms is out there just looking
Yeah.
crazy.
And it's been like this, right, since Pokrovsk, which is the city that was meant to be the duel between Gerasimov and Sersky, right? Because they have to meet the Russians in a battlefield. That's the only way this can win. You can't win wars with drones. Just same way you can't win wars with missiles. You can't win wars with any one tactic. That's why it's called combined arms. You know what I'm saying? And the Russians are in the field right now. You'll see things like, the Ukrainians will charge an edge position with the Russians where the Russians are lightly defending these edge positions. And then those Russians retreat rather than, fight to the death because they're just holding the edge position. They'll retreat back to the bigger Russian position, right? And so the Ukrainians for a day are able to be like, oh, look at this land we took back from the Russians. And then divisions of Russians roll in and just kill all these Ukrainians because they don't have the bodies. Sersky understands now he is in a do or die situation where he has to have a pitched battle. And it looks like, again, according to military summary, that there's a massive Ukrainian concentration that's near Drushkivka, right? This is one of the last strongholds they have in the Donbass. And this dude, this is like a World War II type engagement. This dude is preparing. We just don't even do war like that now. He's got mechanical battalions. He's got heavy mechanized brigades. He's got the 93rd Mechanized Brigade, the 44th Mechanized Brigade, the 156th, the 100th, the 28th, the 24th, the 120th, right? This is a lot of forces that they have aggregated. And the whole point is to have a pitched battle with the Russians, which they're going to be destroyed by. And that'll be the end of it. That's going to be really close to the end of what's happening as far as what's happening in the whole Donbass area, which is the whole point that the Russians want. And because the Russians have not met, because the Americans were not able to deliver on any of the promises from when they met at Anchorage, it looks like the Russians are going to extend and press their advantage. They've said that there's really no need to have any more debates, that it'll be settled on the battlefield. And Sersky's been pushed into this battle.
Yeah, and there's been this discussion, and maybe it's more formal than even I know, where the special military operation is sort of coming to a close, and they're talking about this more being a full-scale war. We're going 3 years on this thing. Obviously, not much has changed. Maybe there was some hope, not by us, but maybe from some people, that Donald Biden would keep the money from flowing into Ukraine. That has not changed, even though obviously because of Iran and the war that Israel is taking to Hezbollah, those weapons are drying up. And now I guess this is, like you're saying, some sort of last stand or great push or something of that nature. This doesn't end well for the Ukrainians. They've been trying this for a few years. They take some land. It becomes a great victory and talking point for the news cycle of the week. And 3 months later or 6 months later, that land is taken back again. And as you were talking about, and as we see, as the war continues, the Donbass is becoming more and more cleared up, more and more in Russia's territory, and that is not going to change. And now we're just kind of, how far is this thing going to go? Is it going to go really to the last Ukrainian, or?
And that's the thing, right? As we talk about commercial successes that the Ukrainians are having, that says nothing about the battlefield losses. And this is not about winning or losing battles. They're losing cities, right? Cities are economic centers. Cities are resource centers, right? You win wars, you fight battles, not to say my army beat your army, but to take cities, to take resources. This is what's happening. The Russians are taking the resources. That's the most certain way you know that they're winning and the Ukrainians are losing. We have the city of Sumy that is under pressure. That's a city of 268,000 people. You see what I'm saying? That's not a small place. That's bigger than Little Rock, Arkansas. You have the city of Kharkiv under pressure. Kharkiv is a city of more than 1 million people. 1.5 million people live in Kharkiv. The Russian army is less than 30 miles away from Kharkiv. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a drone strike. Like, and there continues to be whispers that Surovikin is coming back with a whole different army. Like, the thought for a long time is they were just cycling out Gerasimov, who has been handling the battles at the forefront for the Russian army as far as the special military operation goes. But now more and more, there are whispers that Surovikin has an entirely different army with an entirely different purpose. Now, if they're already coming down through Sumy, I wish I had a map to give you guys, but like, that's the northern part of Ukraine. You know, if you come through Sumy with a major force, it's altogether possible to capture and occupy Kyiv. That's game over.
Yeah, let's pivot, shall we? Because there's a lot happening in Iran. This was Donald a little earlier today at the White House.
Mr. President, there are no signs that Iran is ready to stop fighting. So what is the plan? Is the plan to just keep bombing until
how would you know if there are no signs? What, you know something that I don't know?
Well, they continue to attack our allies.
Yeah, but you don't know what the dialogue is behind the scenes, that they want to meet desperately to try and end it because they're getting decimated. You don't get that when you listen to your fake station, but...
Ooh, testy a little bit right there. He could be mad about a few things. One of those things could be this: satellite images from the Muwafaq Sati Air Base, Jordan, shows that Iran is destroying block by block. Within 1 to 2 weeks, the base will be completely out of service. That's from Megatron Run. As you can see there in the footage, huge explosions, buildings that were there, no longer there, just sort of a, dark mark in the ground. I don't know what to say. Bahrain has been hit. Kuwait, we now see Jordan here being hit. It's been happening. Thoughts on this? Kind of, I don't know what to say with the drum thing. I just thought it was like, dang, bro, you getting testy because you're losing this thing. This thing's out of control. And I don't know. I don't think there's enough testosterone for the troops.
Yeah, that was a fascinating thing, right? Watching the Secretary of War say everybody needs to be on T. You know what I'm saying? It's a huge segment of people that's on T right now that can't even join the military.
Yes, that's correct.
Fascinating, and Clint Smith whipped. But yeah, let's be real about it. I mean, Iran has been very, very forthcoming about what their responses were going to be. They said that they tried to give the MOU a trial to see if the Americans would keep their word. I mean, this is the thing that they continue to say about the Americans, and they're using historical analysis, and they continue to say the Americans are agreement incapable. No matter what the terms are, the Americans break the deal. The Americans they bring the Russians over, to Alaska, and they have the Anchorage Accords. The Russians go away saying the Americans didn't honor any of their agreements. Trump goes to China, meets with Xi Jinping. They try to make all of these deals. The Chinese say the Americans aren't meeting any of their deals, right? This is a consistent thing. And so when they're saying, if you continue to strike us, this is a war and we will hit back. I mean, it just goes to show how silly some of these guys like Mr. Kent are. It's like, and it's so sad that so many people was quick to prop them up. Because how do you say, well, they've killed American soldiers, so we need to hit them again and then we need to leave? Like, the thing that belies all of that is you assume that you can do something that will make them stop hitting you when you hit them. The only thing you can do normally to make someone stop hitting you is to stop hitting them.
It's like this parental language they just keep using, like, oh, we're gonna hit him, we're gonna punish him. Well, you can't do that when they're punishing all of your allies' bases really badly.
And what's happening to the bases, I mean, it once again, it demonstrates that they are committed to defending themselves as they're attacked. This is what happens in wars. Americans have been drunk on success. And so this is why we say on Inner City Left all the time, war is the worst thing that humans do. If you do war, you will lose soldiers. Humans die. This is why you don't do wars. The safest way to protect soldiers is to not send them into wars, right? That's what you do. And the soldiers are just one part of it. We're getting reports. The Hormuz report is saying that the Iranians have warned 18 American tech companies, including Microsoft, Intel, Cisco, Google. Anybody use any of those companies? Right? Saying that all of these guys are so deeply embedded with the military now that they see them as legitimate military targets. So, like, that's a threat to all of the data centers, all of the infrastructure that those guys have. You have to remember fiber optic cables go all across the world to make the internet work. All of this is not up in the skies, but, even the stuff that's up in the skies, has been militarized. It's impossible to think about Starlink as just a commercial product when we know, and we've been seeing for years, the Ukrainians are using it to do their drone weaponry. That they used it to try to foment, disturbances in Iran, and so, like, these are real things that are belying what the president is saying in real time, and people are writing about it, and you can see these things.
Yeah. And, I think, again, just important to acknowledge that Iran is still in control of the Strait of Hormuz. I think we touched briefly on this last episode about now the reigniting of Saudi Arabia as war against Ansar Allah, also known as the Houthis in Yemen. So the Bin al-Madab Strait also very tenuous right now. And this is, again, going to affect the global economy greatly. It already is. And just like that reporter talking to Trump, everyone is speaking about it a little bit more. But because this administration is full of the most ridiculous things that you'll ever hear, we mentioned the testosterone thing with Hegseth. They now have this report about Cuba, and Cuba has infiltrated, America and plans to take over America. I mean, keep it real. You can't even keep it realistic. That's what this government does. That's what they say. And Donald Trump cannot help himself to be at the top of that when it comes to ridiculous statements. And just kind of berating the reporter because you don't have any answers, because you said their military was obliterated, that their nuclear weapons were obliterated. And he also was like, oh, we're going to hit, if they continue to build a nuclear weapon, we're going to hit that site. Well, it's a mountain, so you can't. And, you going to war with someone who doesn't have a nuclear weapon before they get the nuclear weapon really doesn't make any sense. Again, we pointed out the hypocrisy of this. And the last thing I'll say is Saudi Arabia might be getting a nuclear weapon soon. That's come out as well. The United States trying to help them along. So this is
nuclear technology. I don't want to obfuscate these things because it's important. Now, the understanding of how to enrich uranium or how to enrich plutonium, it can be weaponized, but just the knowledge in and of itself is not, because that's the original critique of Iran, right? Iran has the knowledge. And if you know how to get it to 3%, over a long enough timeline, you know how to get it to 98%, but just because you have the knowledge, it does not infer intent. I don't know if the Saudis want a nuclear weapon. I just wanted to clear that up. But the Americans are certainly making it easier to streamline their acquisition.
I can't put anything past the United States.
And that's
a fact. If they are interested in building a nuclear power or nuclear technology within Saudi Arabia, I can't be hopeful that it's just about energy. I have to take it as a threat, which is I think it is being done as that as well, because Saudi Arabia, involving themselves with Yemen again kind of shows that they're really right back with America and this whole thing. So it's like it's not the same apples to apples when it comes to what's happening in Australia. But again, China has talked about this a lot. I think Victor Gao talked about it. Like, you guys got nuclear submarines. I honestly don't care if there's a nuclear weapon in there or not. You got a nuclear submarine, which makes me believe you could have a nuclear weapon in it. And I can't put that past you. I'm sorry, United States. You don't have any goodwill with me. But anyway, I mean, regardless, like you said, it could be some distance away. But I don't see any real way out of here. There's no more mentions of things like off ramps. The same thing happening in Ukraine. The United States is unable to sustain these. And of course, they have their victories in Central and South America and the Caribbean. But further and further in the global South, they're getting more losses. And Iran is really, it's kind of showing them, just like Russia and maybe soon to be China. We don't know. Let's give a shout out to our podcast listeners. We're available everywhere you find podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, et cetera. InnerCityLeft.com, Fables, Foibles, and Other American Sins right behind me. Merch store. It's open. I'm going to put it in the description, although I'm still working on the merch store. But hey, check this out right here, that you can get this on the merch store. This is the all left Inner City Left logo right here. Mean TMK everywhere you find music. Lil Tanky everywhere you find music. Inner City Left on Instagram. Patreon.com/InnerCityLeft. That's where all the cool kids are. Come join us. Subscriptions as low as $5. Actually, subscriptions as low as free if you just want to join us, because, we on our commie ting. I think that's all I got. Tanky, what do we miss? Some final thoughts. What's the vibe?
I mean, all of these things you got to remember are just pieces on a puzzle, and all of it is pointing at China. And you're starting to see more and more they're moving to pieces. Russia's China's largest energy partner. Iran is a top 5 Chinese energy partner. And by destabilizing both of those fronts, you destabilize Chinese energy independence. Venezuela was also a top 5 energy partner. 3 of those different systems came under shock. And now we have the ridiculous language about China tried to buy the election. Keep your eyes on the ball, y'all.
Right.
Eyes on the ball. And we'll bring you more information as we get that, That election scandal. Did they rig it for you, man? You won. Pretty big. Anyway, I guess another election scandal on the way soon. We'll talk about it if it's a real thing. But until then, I'm Amin TMK for Amoja Lil Tanky Sumler. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' Inner City Left.